All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about something huge today, a massive shift in global power that's happening right now, the rearmament of Germany. For decades, a peaceful, non-militarized Germany was seen as the absolute bedrock of stability in Europe. But now, that's all changing. And honestly, the entire future of European security is up in the air. And that really gets us to the heart of the matter, the big paradox we're digging into today. How on earth did we go from point A to point B? How did a demilitarized Germany, the symbol of peace, suddenly become the potential key to future security? To really get it, we need to rewind a bit and look at how this whole situation was set up in the first place.
You see, for most of the last 80 years, what people called the German question, basically the fear of one super powerful nation right in the middle of Europe, was considered solved. America's leadership in NATO kind of put a lid on all those old historic rivalries. They were put on ice, so to speak.
But that arrangement is starting to crack. The United States is making it pretty clear that its main focus is shifting over to Asia, and as it pulls back, a power vacuum is opening up in Europe. This is forcing everyone to ask a fundamental question: who is actually going to be in charge of the continent's security? And more, all eyes are turning to Germany.
Okay, so if the old system is fading, what's the new plan? Well, there's one school of thought, what they call realism, that has a really provocative answer. In foreign policy, realists care more about power and national interest than anything else. And analysts like Sumantra Maitra are arguing that this new world needs a bold, power-based solution that puts Germany right at the center of Europe's defense.
The core strategy that America's pushing here is something called burden shifting. The idea is pretty simple, actually. The US wants to hand over the tough, conventional defense stuff, the ground troops, the logistics, to a powerful ally like Germany. In exchange, the US keeps its nuclear umbrella over Europe, which frees up America to focus on threats elsewhere without being stretched too thin.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The realists basically say there are only two options on the table. They look at the idea of an EU-led army and just laugh it off. They see it as a bureaucratic nightmare, totally chaotic and disorganized. So in their view, the only realistic option is a direct partnership, a kind of duopoly, between Germany's incredible economic power and America's nuclear muscle.
And this quote just lays it all out there. The argument is that America's most critical partner in Europe isn't the UK or France anymore, it's not the EU and Brussels, it's Germany. That is a radical departure from nearly a century of foreign policy.
But okay, this raises a huge, and I mean huge question. If you're going to make Germany the military powerhouse of Europe, how do you stop it from becoming too powerful? How do you reassure all its neighbors who have, let's be honest, some pretty valid historical fears? Well, that question has kicked off this really intense debate about something called the golden handcuffs.
And this right here really shows you the two sides of the coin. On one side, you have people saying the only safe way to do this is to bind Germany tightly into the EU. Those are the golden handcuffs. But the realists? They say that's just wishful thinking. Their view is blunt. Those who pay get to play. If Germany is footing the bill and providing the soldiers for Europe's defense, it's not going to let other countries tell it what to do.
And the realists have this really powerful metaphor to make their point. They say the whole golden handcuffs idea has a massive flaw. You're expecting the wolf to put on its own chains. The idea that a rearmed, powerful Germany will just voluntarily limit its own power, they say that's completely naive and unsustainable.
But let's be clear, this realist vision of a German-led Europe comes with a ton of its own risks. Critics are waving a big red flag, warning that if you unleash German military power, even with the best intentions, you could be opening a total Pandora's box of problems that could make Europe less stable, not more.
Okay, so risk number one. Instead of uniting Europe, a rearmed Germany could actually split it apart. You've got countries in Eastern Europe, like Poland, that have deep-seated historical fears. They might see a dominant Germany and decide to form their own separate alliance, creating a brand new division right down the middle of the continent.
Then there's risk number two, a new arms race. And get this, not against an enemy, but inside NATO. A super strong German army could make other major powers, especially nuclear ones like France, feel insecure. And that could push them to build up their own weapons just to keep up, creating this dangerous spiral among allies.
Risk 3 is about what happens when military muscle meets money. Critics worry that an unchained Germany could start using its army as leverage in economic disputes, basically bullying smaller EU countries. That would completely shatter the whole idea of European solidarity.
This whole thing is also a massive gamble for the United States.
What if Germany doesn't follow through on rearming? Or even worse, what if it decides to just become neutral? Then the US is left high and dry, its whole strategy for Asia is weakened, and you can bet there'd be a huge political backlash back home.
And we can't forget about what could happen inside Germany itself. A return to militarism is a really controversial idea. It could spark huge protests, fuel extremism on both sides, and cause major social unrest, basically destabilizing the country from within just when the world needs it to be stable.
And finally, there's a real fear that these problems might not just stay in Europe. A rearmed Germany, needing to secure its access to natural resources, might be tempted to intervene in conflicts in places like Africa or the Middle East, creating its own sphere of influence and potentially sparking new conflicts with other world powers.
So when you put it all together, you can see that policymakers are really stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're facing a monumental choice, and honestly, both paths forward are absolutely loaded with risk.
So, the two visions couldn't be clearer. On the one hand, you've got the promise of a stable, efficient, and secure Europe held together by this powerful German-American partnership. But on the other hand, you have the nightmare scenario, a continent that's fracturing, haunted by old ghosts, and torn apart by new rivalries. It really is a double-edged sword.
And that leaves us with the one massive defining question. Will a rearmed Germany become the pillar that holds Europe up, or the crack that causes the whole thing to shatter? The answer to that question is going to shape the world